Relax, the keyboard is off and the press box is closed, but the mic is just getting warmed up. Welcome to the Hockey Writers Ink, the show where the writer is fresh off the presses and the ink is not dry. Join your host Lance Green, the guardian of the blue paint turned writer, and co-host SteelFlyers, as we bring you all the latest on the Philadelphia Flyers. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next edition of the Hockey Writers Ink. I'm your co-host, Ron SteelFlyers, and we are here with the host with the most, the editor-in-chief of SteelFlyers.com. That's right, folks, your host, Lance Green.
All right, guys, I am ready to talk some Flyers hockey, regardless of what they've been doing on the ice, or what they haven't been doing on the ice, whatever way you want to look at it. But yeah, let's get into this and try to figure this out.
Okay, well, it's kind of pretty simple and it's pretty easy, you know. I mean, it is what it is. And so, first of all, we would like to say a big thank you to Spreaker for getting us out there on all the podcasting platforms. Very much appreciate that. Also, would like to appreciate all you fans out there for all the great support, the great comments. Love it. Please keep it coming. I'd also like to thank all the Facebook groups. I really appreciate you guys allowing us to post out there on your group sites, and we really appreciate all the feedback that we get from you guys. That's why we do it. That's why we love doing it, because we really like the audience that you guys are, and so we really appreciate that. We really thank you guys for allowing us to post out on all the great Facebook groups out there. So too numerous to mention, of course. But here we go, folks. We're going to dive right into episode number 163, and the Flyers are on the brink of elimination for the 2023-2024 season. And I think it coincides perfectly with your latest article, Lance. And we're going to cover that and a lot of other things here, too, in this show for sure. So, you know, look, the game the other night was brutal, to say the least. It really drove home, I think, exactly what we talked about in our last show, where and even what you mentioned in your latest or your last article, where they kind of hit the wall. The wall being their talent level. Do you know what I mean? And I don't think the guys are tired per se. I don't think that Tortorella's been driving them. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, they had a tough camp and all that, but I think it's more of, we're just running out of real estate.
Talent.
Yeah, talent. Running out of talent. You know what I mean? So, facing elimination with just a handful of games left, and your article is perfect timing, Lance, and talk to me about that wall that the Flyers have hit. What is it that's, they're now on an 8-game skid, where they haven't even gotten a single point in any of these games at all. So, I mean, the scary thing is, mathematically, if they still win the last 3 games, they could still potentially, quote unquote, make it in. But Columbus, Rangers, and Capitals are the final 3 games. So talk to me about this article, Lance, about the Flyers hitting the wall.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory, right? I mean, this club, for over 100 and some days, was able to hold down the Metro Division's 3rd place spot. And up to very recently, over these last 2 weeks, they held that spot, but have seemed to hit a wall, seemed to fall apart even. And I think that's because, like we said last week, that the elite players of the league are able to flip that switch, right? They're able to take it up a notch this time of year and close out games, and stuff like that. You look at, the Washington Capitals, who we still have to face the last game of the season. Alex Ovechkin is obviously one of the best players to ever play this game, and he has turned it up the last 10 to 15 games. He's on fire right now.
He's at what, 31 goals now?
Yeah, something like that. And I mean, for 18 seasons of record, 18 seasons, he has been over the 30 goal mark. And he didn't look earlier on like he was going to reach this year. But, playoff time is coming. He's ramped it up. And the Flyers simply don't have an elite player on the roster to be able to do that, to flip that switch, right? The guys that are getting paid to do that type thing, Sean Couture is, go figure, injured again. And, others.
Cam Atkinson was brought in.
Cam Atkinson is one we mentioned before. He's getting paid over $5 million to do what this season? Not put points on the board because he's failed to do that. And these young group of forwards led by Konechny are just falling off, right? Because they've had to do it all season long, and they shouldn't be expected to be the ones to take it to that next level. They're still learning how to. And, they carried the load, but they can't carry it anymore. Their backs are just kaput, right?
Yeah, that's a great point.
You know what I mean? So they can't match up with the elites of the league. And if you look at it, Travis Konechny, our leading goal scorer this year, had 31 goals at the time I wrote this article. Austin Matthews, the league leader, had 64. Okay, that's a 33 goal difference. Not saying that
that's more production difference than what he has.
Yeah, Konechny would have to play 2 seasons in order to get the goal totals that Matthew has. In the same token, in points, Kucherov for the Tampa Bay Lightning has 136 points at the time I wrote this article. Yeah. That's a 71-point difference. Again, that Konechny would have to play 2 seasons in order to reach that. So this is what we're talking about here, folks. That talent level, although Konechny, not to take anything away from Konechny, he's a great player. He's an all-star.
All-star.
But he's not elite. And that is what, drives these teams deep into the playoffs. And that's why the Flyers simply haven't really had one of those for quite some time now.
I'm gonna break it down even further. There are elite players on teams right now. One example being the Pittsburgh Penguins. You got Sidney Crosby, who has exactly what Alex Ovechkin has done over the last 15 or 20 games or so. Has just gone click. And broken down into get to the playoff mode, and dude's lighting it up. Multiple goals, multiple points, multiple assists. I mean, and Pittsburgh is, now leapfrogged over Philadelphia as far as in the standings, has more points. Now they have a tougher road to hoe than Philadelphia does for their final stretch of games. Do you know what I mean? But still, Pittsburgh, anytime you mention Sidney Crosby, they're going to be relevant.
Yeah.
Because of that elite player that's on the team.
And these guys are mid to late 30s, doing this still, able to turn it up a notch and do this still. So
I'm not saying we need to look, it's few and far between that you get a Sidney Crosby, that you get a Connor McDavid, that you get, Nathan McKinnon's or Cale Makar's. Those guys are few and far between. But in order to, you need to put yourself into position to get those kinds of guys, to be able to attain those kinds of players. If Look, if you want to be in the same boat as all these playoff teams, you need to be scoring 100 and some points for the season. You need to have players that are not scoring, you know, 40, 50, 60 points for the season. You need them to be scoring 70, 80, 90 points
100, yeah.
or 100 for the season, because otherwise you're going to be on the outside looking in, just like the Flyers are right now.
Steel, It's amazing that you say this, because that is exactly what my article that I'm working on now, that should be out tonight or tomorrow. And basically that's what it's saying. With the team losing 8 straight and simply going from what was a guaranteed playoff spot with being third in the Metropolitan Division over the last 2 weeks, bouncing out of that spot, losing out on what is a wild card spot, with teams beginning to clinch those spots right now, and basically heading towards a draft lottery spot now. That's how close the division is. I think they should shift focus. And what that article entails is just what you were saying. You need to do what you can to garner one of those players and obtain one of those players. And if it means, hear me out, if it means dealing or packaging multiple picks, which Danny Briere has went out and done, right? And Chuck Fletcher with, when he dealt away Claude Giroux, so be it. If there is a guy on the board that you covet so badly, go out and get him, right? You did that in Michkov, right? You took a shot on him, and the kid is in his draft plus 1 year is broken records that Kiprasov set, and everything like that. And he's a 40-goal scorer and 100 and some points this season. Okay, and he's done that for 3 or 4 seasons in a row, 90, 100 points and 40 goals plus. So the likes of this superstar talent is coming, but I'm okay at this point. If they lose out, I'm okay with it, because what are they going to do? What are they really shown us these past 2 weeks? That they're going to fall apart when the time counts? These guys are young. This is a young team. This is a developing team. This is a team that's going to be set in 2-3 years' time to be true cup contenders if Briere has anything to do with it. So
I agree.
Go out and get those players.
I agree.
Trade what you have to trade. Players on the roster, Konechny being one of them that I mentioned that has been rumored in this last article that is already put out there. As being one of those players that is getting some interest, and Danny is at least listening to offers for, which would garner possibly yet another first round pick. So his now that's yet to be determined. That is rumors, but those are once those rumors start coming in from multiple places and multiple ears are hearing them, there's some truth to them, right? So that is what I'm saying, guys. This is the point where I'm at. I have yet to see a championship banner raised in my 38 years of being on this earth as a Flyers fan. I want to see it done. And I've yet to see the moves made in order to make that happen. And, with Briere, I'm starting to see that kind of gutso attitude. So let's do it, man. Let's go out and obtain somebody. Let's trade some people and trade some draft capital to go out and move down, which the Flyers are in right now, 12th spot, I think, if the season ended today. But if they lose out, and I'm not saying they should tank, but if they lose the rest of the season, and they go into a top 10 position or draft ladder, it wouldn't be as hard to move up to, say, 5 or 6 and draft one of these guys than it would be to make it to the playoffs and be stuck drafting in the high teens or early 20s and end up with another Scott Lawton. Scott Lawton is a serviceable NHL player, and he's been good to the Flyers for a long time, but he's not going to raise you any banners.
I'm with you. And, I'm gonna say this too because I'm gonna shout out to the O&B Puckcast boys, and I think that they would highly agree with exactly what you just said. The fact that have been watching the team for this long and have yet to see a championship banner, and I I I can't even disagree with you, man. I wholeheartedly 100% agree. We the Flyers finally have an organization, I believe, that is going to be willing to cross that bridge, to make that deal, to sign that contract. There I believe that Danny Briere is positioning himself with draft capital. I believe that he's positioning himself with trying to get some cap space and wiggle room. Do you know what I mean? They got some relief from Carter Hart, and he's done some other things. And I think this coming off season, I think we're going to
Kevin
see
Hayes trade, the Provorov trade, yeah.
Okay, and getting rid of some of the uglier contracts like the Hayes and all that other stuff. But I think this coming off season, I think you're going to see a lot of. I mean, I hope there's some things that change, and I think that's a perfect segue into what do we think that the fans could expect to see from this team going into the offseason? Look, let's face a reality here, okay? It's the Columbus Blue Jackets, who I believe the Flyers, if I recall, they lost to them 6-2 was the last game they played them?
Saturday, April 6th.
Okay, right. So I'm not holding out much hope on any type of turning it around. Then they got the Rangers, who are in the running for the President's Trophy. So they actually might have a shot at that game, because I would be more than willing to bet you that New York will be resting players. Because why play anyway? But they played the Rangers well, maybe, who knows? And then the final game against the Capitals.
And they're just on fire right now.
And so I'm here to tell you, man. And then with Penguins coming on, right? The New York Islanders have already slotted into the third spot now, right? With 87 points, and they're ahead of everybody. Okay, we haven't even spoken about them, right?
Everybody has a game in hand. The Flyers have played one more game than everybody you just mentioned, too. So that is another opportunity that the Flyers don't have to gain points on them too. So it's not looking good. It's not looking good.
So
let's talk about what they could do in the off season.
Yeah, let's touch on it a little bit. I don't want to go into a full on, hey, sure. I know we're talking rebuild and all this other stuff, and you and I both agree that this team has achieved well above expectations this year.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they were in a playoff spot for over 110 consecutive days is a testament to this team. The gauntlet that they went through and what they were able to achieve by going through that gauntlet, I think that was just the end of the road for them. I think that was their playoffs. I think because you got a lot of rookies or a lot of young guys on the team that are not necessarily used to playing a full-on 82 games, and most of them didn't even play. I mean, I think Tyson Forster was a couple of games shy, but I think he's been in almost every game. Do you know what I mean? And I think Sandheim is another one too. But see, he's still a little bit young, although he's been around a couple of years. Brink hasn't played a full 82 games. He was a healthy scratch for a number of games. Frost, whom I think is fodder, he hasn't played a full 82 games. Do you know what I mean? There's just guys that haven't really played a full set of games, and I think some of that stuff is going to reflect on what happens in the offseason. I think you're going to see a lot more change is going to still be in the works, I believe. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? With Danny Briere being able to trade away the trades that he made to get the players, he's not afraid to make the deal. So that means anybody's on the block, basically.
Yeah, I mean, and player perspective, definitely. I think there's some cases to make for potential buyouts and
Some.
stuff like that. But let's talk coaching staff here, because I think that is something that needs to be addressed.
Oh yeah.
First and foremost, the power play coach. We've talked about it before. Rocky Thompson, a fighter, career fighter who's never stepped up foot on the ice when on the power play. Never has scored a goal in the NHL, but you have him running an NHL power play unit, and he's failed miserably for multiple seasons in a row. He needs to go. Also,
let's just look. That goes. How do I say this, man? I don't even know how to say this, but is it more of the writing on the wall for that guy, or is it just the fact that
a matter of 3 games? I don't know.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
You know what I mean? And then, hey, thanks, but get out.
Please also, don't let the door hit you on the way out either.
Also, the goaltending coach, Kim Delaball, has been with the Flyers and came with a lot of hype for people he worked with in the past.
Yeah.
But I don't see it. I don't see it. Yes. He's done nothing to help the Flyers goalies. No. And once they get to the Flyers from whatever team they come from, whatever league they come from, they tend to get worse.
Like, wait a minute.
I don't get it. I see faults in some of these guys' play, being a goaltender and a goaltending coach. I'm not saying that, I'm by that.
See, Lance, you've done it for so long.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You've played it for so long. You've coached it for so long. It's something that you've done your whole entire life. So, look, I feel you're qualified to at least break down a goalie coach. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think his practices are a little out of touch there, and I really would like to see somebody else come in, and I would have to research for some names to suggest after the season, especially. But there's definitely a few people that I would be calling to see if they're available to come in and help coach these young goaltenders, because we've put a lot of draft stock into them. A lot of them are second, third round picks. That are still in the developmental stages as well. So I think that he has had his time here, and judging by the teams or the goalies combined goals against average, save percentage, it's not looking good, and their defense has been much better off this season than it was previous years.
Yeah.
But still, their goaltenders are above 3 goals a game, and the save percentage is dipping down below 900.
Yep.
It needs to be addressed. And those two spots is where I would look to make a move as soon as the season's over. As far as coaching goes, I don't know.
I'm with you on that 100%. I really, truly believe that Rocky Thompson should have been let go a season or two ago. The goalie coach was brought in initially for Carter Hart. And he was a guy that he had worked with in the past, and was also part of the guy that we got from San Jose, right? Because that's where
there was links to that. He was brought over by Ron Hextall because he came from the LA Kings and was working with their goaltenders, who we all know won championships and all that. So it seemed like the right guy at the time. But he really has done nothing, in my mind, to justify his job over the past couple of seasons.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you 100%, because it does appear that the goaltenders have we know that Ersson is talented. We know that Ivan Fedotov is talented. We know they're able to stop the puck. We've seen the left-handed larcenies. We've seen the saves. We've seen them. But it's just I'm with you. It just seems like they're not being necessarily taught how to deal with certain things at certain times, and they're making kind of, you know, coachable type mistakes. Does that make sense?
No, it does. I mean, I could spend, pages and pages of articles breaking down, stuff down, but I've done it before, and it's fallen on deaf ears. So, hopefully they'll address these issues in the off season with the coaching staff. Um, as they've done already in different avenues. Danny came in and changed a lot of stuff, but I think there's
Very
still some
much so, yeah.
changes to do
I agree.
in that regard. So, yeah, but I mean, I think as far as players go, there's a number of guys that, you know, we've already said the Cam Atkinson's needs to be addressed. He's not getting any younger. He's not getting any cheaper, but yet his production is dipping down. I don't believe you can do anything
What
with
production?
Yep. I don't believe you can do anything with Sean Couturier's god awful contract that they signed him to, overpaying him way too much for a defensive center. Um, you know,
Who knows?
do they, bringing back Morgan Frost? I don't. I wouldn't. I would see what his market is at the draft floor. Um,
Well,
at
I wouldn't
5, 6
necessarily be
years
worried
into the
about what his
league now,
market
I
is
don't
on the
see
draft floor. I
growth.
would package him up regardless.
Yeah, I don't see his, you know, worth 5, 6 seasons into the league now. Um, there's definitely some questions about Ristolainen. Big tough guy, looked very Philadelphia-like before draft or before trading for him from Buffalo, but then now that he's been here, his career plus minus shows why he was dealt. And injuries occurring now. I don't see it
Not
getting
worth
any
his money.
better in that sense. I might want to try to move that contract as well, if possible. So it's definitely interesting. Do you bring back Mark Stahl? No, indeed. Do I bring back Eric Johnson? No, I don't. So there's do you do anything with the Ryan Ellis contract that prohibits us from,
See, I don't know what you can do.
right? It prohibits us from going out and spending the money before the season starts on free agent, because you can't, set him to long-term IR before a certain date. Um, you know,
I don't
it's
know
a
if there's
number
I
of
don't know if there's
questions.
a medical buyout that they could do,
I'm not sure.
or you know what I mean. Hey, by the way, if you guys happen to know, if
I
there's
don't.
any way that the Flyers could get rid of Ryan Ellis, let us know. Put it in the comments, and we would
I
really
think it would be a
appreciate that.
normal buyout at this point, but I don't know if it would be worth it, being that they already have money wrapped up in Kevin Hayes and everybody else's, dealings of retaining salaries and such like that.
See,
Um,
that's why I'm a little bit hesitant on the buyouts.
yeah,
I'm either look, if you can't trade them, then you got to waive them. And if that's not going to work, then I mean, you're just going to have to deal with the fact that this is what you got to deal with. Do you know what I mean? And you got to work with that.
yeah. The Cal Peterson's deal is horrible. We took that on knowing that that was going to be, the cost of getting rid of Provorov and getting a first round pick, and a second as well. So,
Yeah. Mhm.
there was promise to that, draft capital, but, we're stuck with that deal as well. So a lot of bad contracts, hanging around there that we could try to do something with as well in that regard.
I'm,
So
I'm,
there
I'm
is a
sure
lot of
that Danny
off-season
is.
moves. There is a lot of off-season moves, as well as, potential draft day moves that could help this club moving forward. I think that Danny Briere is gonna pull off something. He's already shown the more capability than his predecessor for sure in doing that. He's gotten some deals done. Um, and made those roster changing, deals. So good for him. I'm interested to see what the team is going to do this offseason and how they're going to move this team
Me too.
forward.
Me too.
But I'll lay some of that out, like I said, in my next article here that comes out maybe before this show premieres. I hope to have it done. So.
Okay. Well, who knows? Well, we'll see how it goes. But no, I think you make a lot of great points. I think some of those players definitely need to be addressed, and need to be either moved, dealt, or traded. Something, you know what I mean? It's got to happen because they don't have as much wiggle room as they probably could if they weren't able to not get rid of some of these contracts. I also think, too, that after this coming season, where, some of the percentage of contracts that you are owed goes away after this next season. Here's the other really thing, too, that I think is going to be a really helpful thing for the Philadelphia Flyers moving forward, especially in this offseason. I think you're going to see the Flyers potentially, and I know I'm talking the pipe dream of Celebrini. I get it. But I really feel that Philadelphia just seems to be positioning themselves to try to do something
Big.
on the draft day that is gonna, knock socks off. Look, I'm not counting on that. I'm not anticipating that. I just want to. It just feels like there's that energy flying around this team that look. The draft this year is not as deep as last year's draft when it comes to offensive players. There's a good set of defensemen in this coming draft. But once you get past like the first round and a half, your talent levels drop off significantly, especially in this year's draft.
Mm-hmm.
2025 draft, it's going to be a lot deeper, I think. There's a lot more players, I think. There's a lot more guys, I think, in the next draft that are going to potentially be that generational talent. You know what I mean? Like, you're getting that, one or two names that are coming out for this year's coming draft. But I think in the following draft, you're going to hear a lot more of some other names, not just one or two. I think you're going to hear more just than one or two. You know what I mean? So what I mean by the Flyers positioning themselves to make a major deal, they have multiple first-round picks in the first round. That in and of itself, packaged up with a young potential prospect or a player to any hungry team that, is looking for potential whatever, could move up in the draft. I mean, look, let's face it. We're going to be dealing with the likes of the San Jose's, the Arizonas. Do you know what I mean? The Chicagos. These are going to be the teams that are going to be in the lottery.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying? So these are the kind of guys that we're going to have to be looking to. And some of these teams have draft capital. Some of these teams have, space, cap space, right? So some of these teams will be able to do some of these deals. You know what I mean? So I just feel that that's what's going to be happening on draft day. I think draft day is going to be something very, very hopeful for Philadelphia Flyers fans. I just feel that with Danny Briere in this coming draft.
Yeah, I would say you're looking at Montreal. You're not going to get the first pick from San Jose, who if they get it, they're at such a loss. They need to take everything they can get, the best player available. But you're looking at a team like the Ducks and like Montreal. They have picks. They have a good young core. They don't necessarily need that. Who doesn't want a top 5 pick by far? Obviously, but they could stand to move back to something like 10 or 12th and gain more assets because they're asset hungry teams. and they may be able to do that deal. Now, I know Danny Briere has been talking to Montreal, definitely when with the Gauthier trade, and eventually made a deal with Anaheim already. There's already been talks for other trades. He's kept the door open, so those teams are the ones I would think would be the most likely to make a deal. And if that in turn was for Travis Konechny, say to Montreal, who has interest, or the Ducks, who may be looking for a certain player, as well as to move back a little bit in the draft, but maybe gain something next season's draft. Those teams would be the ones I would start calling first. I believe Chicago wants to get somebody at 2 or 3 that is going to play with their guy that they got last year. Columbus needs all the help they can get, but these teams with tons and tons of draft picks already in their system that have been kind of bad, they need an established veteran, like a Travis Konechny in that realm that could lead these young guys that they already have, if that makes sense.
Okay. I mean,
And I'm not
I'm
saying
with
I
you on.
want to deal Konechny, but that's the name that's been rumored
Yeah.
to possibly
No.
move,
I've seen.
and that's
Yeah.
obviously the most tantalizing name for anybody looking at the Flyers list of
Roster.
players
Yeah,
for
because he's
for
the
a
only one
potential
that's
trade candidate. Yeah,
he's the only one that's done anything this year.
yeah.
No, I'm not. I'm not saying that at all. But I've really been impressed with what Tyson Forster has done this year. I think he has taken a huge step. He was somebody that we were fawning over as well. I think you're going to see Ivan Fedotov once he figures it out. Oh my gosh, I think this guy's going to be phenomenal. We've seen what he's done on the big ice, and once he figures out the little ice, I mean, because this guy is what 6'8".
Yeah.
Once he figures it out, man, I think sky's the limit for this goaltender. I don't care that he's 27. You give me a Roman Checkmonic and a guy that comes over as a rookie at 27 and he's got him for life. Yeah. I mean, I'm just kidding, but you know what I'm saying. I don't care. I think this guy he's already seasoned. He's already seen professional hockey. He's already seen international hockey. He's got experience. He's won, he's lost. You know what I mean? He just needs to figure out the little ice and then the communication with the defense and everything else like that. And I think it's going to be okay. I'm willing to oversee those the growing pains because in lieu of like the hockey coach or the goalie coach. I mean, you know what I mean, and that kind of stuff too. So
Yeah, I told you it was going to probably take time. Like, he's a
yeah,
tantalizing prospect, and he's got to learn this, like you said, the small ice, new players, new system, and they're not giving him any help out there either. Goalie, they left so many guys wide open, sitting on the doorstep, have with their backs to them, that the goalies simply had no chance. They're not playing positional hockey even right now, so I don't know where the wheels fell off or why, but that's something that Tortorella is going to be spending nights wide awake in bed thinking about in all this offseason. So
speaking of Tortorella spending sleepless nights, lying awake at night, dreaming about how to fix how the tires fell off, I absolutely do believe 100% he is going to honor his contract and finish it out as Flyers coach. And in fact, I think he might even be up for an extension. And if I was Danny Briere, that's exactly what I would do. I would give him a what, maybe a 2-year extension. Well, maybe a 3-year extension, but an option after the second year, or whatever, right? Because he might want to retire or whatever the case is. Who knows? But if you want to continue on the path that you've started, then I think you need to give him an extension and keep moving things along so that he's here for the development of Mitchkov when he arrives. Do you understand what I'm saying? And if not, then you need to make the move now rather than later. And quite frankly, I don't think Tortorella is going anywhere. as far as I'm concerned, and as far as what what I've heard and seen from Danny Briere, from Keith Jones. These guys aren't ready to give up on Torts either. So as far as I'm concerned, he's going to be honoring his contract, which next year will be what, his third year.
Yeah, I think he's the perfect coach for next year as well. We're going to be in a similar situation, possibly see a couple of guys try to break the roster, draft pick wise, that we have in the system already. So it's going to be much of the same. It's going to be an uphill battle. It's going to be a continuation to try to shed bad salary, bad contracts. So he's that perfect coach, at least for next year as well. Once Michkov comes, once whoever we end up drafting over these next 2 years develop into the league, depending on where we're at, I think, he may not be the best coach when all that takes place. But, he, like you said, he may want to retire. He's coached a lot of games in his time. He really doesn't have anything to prove. He has a cup. He has the Jack Adams Award. He doesn't have to do this. He's made enough money in his time. He can go sit back at ESPN or, what TNT or wherever, whoever wants to hire him and work a couple of nights a week for a couple of hours and not have to deal with the stress of being on the road and, the pressure of being a head coach. So with that, Steel, I think we have a pretty good show.
Yes, sir.
I think we should wrap it up here. I
agree.
And see where these next 3 games take us. And, as we potentially head into an early off season, I'm thinking the Flyers should go find their golf clubs and dust them off. But, maybe they'll surprise us. Who knows?
I'll tell you what. Look, I hold out hope every single game until there is no hope, until the final buzzer. I feel really bad for the players because it was a very challenging season for the Flyers, you know what I mean? And there were a lot of ups and downs with everything that's happened with the adversity that this team had faced this year, and still be able to come out better than what the product that they put out on the ice last year. A better team, I think, all the way around at their core, a better team all the way around at the, what this team really is about. It's just now you need to start getting into the practice of getting the players to carry out this vision, to carry out this dream. Do you know what I mean? And once I think they start to acquire more and more of these type players, more and more of these better players. I don't want to keep calling them elite, but let's face it, the Flyers just need better players. Okay, you can't keep drafting in the 20s and be expecting to win a Stanley Cup with a group of Scott Laughtons, like Lance has said. Not that Scott Laughton hasn't been a great player for the Flyers since he's came over, since he's been a Flyer. He's been nothing but awesome, and he's actually a favorite Flyer. And I would hate to see him go. You know what I mean? But he's one of those glue guys. He's one of those guys that fills in the gaps. He's one of those guys that makes it all go. He's a great penalty killer. He's a great, he does things very well, and he helps hold the team together. He's a great leader in the locker room and blah, blah, blah. But he's not the guy you're hanging the banner on the side of the building. He's not the guy that's scoring 40, 50 goals every year, putting up 80, 90, 100 points every season. He's not that guy. You know what I mean? And the league has shown that that's the only level of superstar that they can accept. Doesn't matter if you're a defenseman or if you're a forward or a center, as long as you're putting up goals and assists, then it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? That puts you in that different category. So
I think you've been reading my latest article somehow, because that I've kind of mentioned that in there as well. But yeah,
I'm
I
sorry,
think,
Lance. It just seems that we're a little
yeah,
tuned into each other, I guess.
yeah, I think we're on the same page here for sure. So, um, yeah,
Yeah,
man,
man.
let's see this last couple of games out and
See how they go.
see how they go. Maybe we'll head into off-season mode. Maybe head into postseason mode. Who knows?
Who knows? Why don't you tell the folks where we can find all your great stuff, Lance?
Yep. As always, guys, you can find my stuff on SteelFlyers.com. Be looking for my last article and my latest article to come out probably before the show premieres. You can find me on X at Lance.Green39, and you can always find me on any and all Flyers Facebook groups. You can post all kinds of stuff to me there, and I'll get back with you, answer some questions, comment on what you're thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly, man, for sure. Like especially if anybody knows if there's any kind of buyout that can happen with Ryan Ellis, let us know. If there is some kind of something, by all means, let us know. You know what I mean? My name is Ron SteelFlyers, and you can catch me on X at SteelFlyers52, and you can catch all the great stuff from the Lance Green, the editor-in-chief of SteelFlyers.com, by going over to SteelFlyers.com. And you can get all the great shows from Prospect Watch to this great show, Hockey Writers Ink, and also the SteelFlyers podcast. So thank you all very much for checking out a Philadelphia Flyers-centric podcast, the Hockey Writers Ink. We'll catch you guys all on the next episode.